Welcome to the neXup podcast. I am your host, PC747. This podcast is dedicated around tech, particularly Android phones. I started this podcast back in March of this year. Now you can find this podcast posted on SoundCloud, Google Podcasts, iTunes, and on my website, neXup.com. The reason why I started this podcast and really got into tech started a decade ago. I found myself trying to learn just the simplest thing on how to use my phone. And then that led me to eventually teaching people how to use theirs. I understood the frustration that came from using a new platform. And I wanted to be a voice that could simplify those that are new to smartphones, tablets, or anything technology based. Now, how am I different from anyone else? Well, I try to distinguish myself from other podcasts because I like to branch out from just covering Android to covering other phone platforms, as well as covering topics around cord cutting, entertainment, and any other interesting topics surrounding technology. Now, this week has been quite a quiet week. There's not been a lot of leaks that have been thrown out there. It's the summer about to pick up, and really around this time of year, as far as smartphones, it's kind of the dead period, And I've actually talked about this about 6 or 7 years ago, I believe. Actually, a little bit earlier than that, when the Note 2 came out. And around this same period where it was kind of quiet, Verizon and Motorola had opportunity to release a phone, the Motorola Droid Razr. I think it was the Max at the time. I said this would be a great time to release it. There were just rumors of an upcoming smartphone that would be out there, but people were itching for something. And at the time, they allowed it to slip through their fingers. Instead of releasing the Razr Max at that time, they decided to wait until fall. And by that point, the Note 2 came onto the scene, and the rest has been history. Samsung have taken off from there, and really, if you want to talk about where you may have saw the changing of the guard, that may have been it. Where Motorola was once dominant, Samsung took over right then. Because of the simple fact they brought to the table a phone with specs that, was double that of the Verizon smartphone at the time. And here we are now. I'm looking now. This is the quiet period of technology. You're not going to see a lot of smartphones, especially your flagships, get released now. You will have some rumors probably pop out there. I expect to see some news put out there in WWDC, which will be next week. Which, for those who don't know, will be the Worldwide Developer Conference, which is Apple's conference where they let people know what's going on with their new technology. But for right now, when it comes to smartphones, it's just kind of quiet. And this would be a time if some company out there is wanting to make a name, is wanting to shock the world, is wanting to really jump on and really take the reins from someone like a Samsung or even Google. This would be the time you could release something big. But for right now, we don't have really much to talk about of any company looking to maybe come out here and surprise us. But we do have some news to talk about as far as tech. Now, this week it's kind of still reeling from what happened with Huawei. You guys have heard by now, Huawei is basically a victim of the executive order, pretty much barring U.S. companies from working with them. As far as the bigger picture, we're kind of starting to see the U.S. stock market react to that, as we're seeing stocks just kind of plummet right now. And it's not particularly because of what's going on with Huawei, but it's mainly because of the trade war that's going on with China. Now, I saw a couple of articles kind of, talking about Huawei, and one in particular where Huawei is potentially looking to challenge the ruling saying that it's unconstitutional. And I have so much I would like to talk about that, but my concern is for me to really dig deep and to talk about that topic, I would have to go political, and I said I really don't want to go political with any of my discussions. And because this is so on that cusp of being there, I'm going to kind of, shy away from it for right now. But, one thing that I do remember hearing about last week, as there have been a number of people talking about this topic, it's something that really I would love to kind of see harped on a little bit more. Lou from Unbox Therapy, he has his own podcast that he do, and he actually talked about how as much as we talk about the U.S. ban of Huawei products, sometimes what gets missed is the simple fact that you do have a little blackout going on in China, and the Chinese government, are is kind of playing a similar game and not really allowing other competition to really thrive there. And for me, hearing that kind of echoes what I feel as far as the trade war is going on. As much as there are a lot of people who are victims of this on both sides of it, especially those who bought Huawei phones, and now all of a sudden you got to think about what you're going to do now, because potentially your phone may no longer be supported. Now you got to find a new way to, buy another phone or get that device supported. It's not fair to you. And I can understand for those who may be workers who support these products where now they're victims of this. But listening to them say that, I was thinking that, that is something that fails to get mentioned in this whole debate between the trade war. As much as I know a lot of people would like to see this resolved for the bigger picture. If this go on and if it become a big trade war where we see this back and forth between China and U.S., there will be a lot of people who, unfortunately, will be caught in the middle of it. As far as those of us in the U.S., China do play a big role in supplying just a lot of the things that we buy. And, for a lot of people, there are concerns what can happen with the fact that if we do go into trade war with China, how it would affect farmers, how it would affect other businesses. And that's a concern for everyone. And I do understand the concern there. I do think, though, if we do end up going down that road, and as we're seeing stocks kind of react to that, the market kind of tumble, I do think there can be an opportunity there to open up more businesses, especially here in the States where, someone, can actually start forming their own business, fulfilling some of those things that we relied on China so heavily for. We can start looking at, maybe some of these mom and pop places more, or your garage developers and engineers building things that will kind of help build this community, this Android community, provide in an area where it's been, let's say, relying heavily so much on products from other countries, it's everything from like cases and screens and all that stuff, because it can be made cheaper. It may open a door for someone else to be able to do it here. So, there are a lot of concerns, I understand, but I do think that if it ended up going a way that would be south for everyone, I do hope that there may be some light in the end of the tunnel, but by the fact that it opened doors for small business to kick off to kind of fulfill that market that is left void by this current trade war. But let's go ahead and talk about something that I want to really talk about now. And this was based off an article I read out of Android Police. So you guys know, man, T-Mobile and Sprint been talking about merging for almost a year now. And they're trying to get this done. It's still in the hands of the regulators. There are a lot of questions and for obvious concerns, particularly if you look at both T-Mobile and Sprint. Let's take T-Mobile. They own Metro PCS. And Metro PCS, for those who, I'm pretty sure a lot of you know, but for those who do not know, Metro PCS is pretty much a non-contract carrier for those who are not wanting to spend big money for a big carrier like Verizon, AT&T. They can get something like Metro PCS. And where they thrive is for those who really, want those international minutes, who like to call back and forth. as well as someone who may not have so good of credit, where you can go out there and spend all this money on a big phone. They can get a decent Android phone or smartphone, and it works just fine for a lot of people. Sprint also have their own similar carrier, and Boost Mobile. Now we know about Boost Mobile. You've seen the commercials on that. So when you merge these two companies, and when we talk about T-Mobile and Sprint compared to AT&T, Verizon, those are some of your cheaper carriers compared to the two. And now you're going to have T-Mobile, Sprint, Boost Mobile, and Metro PCS all in the same house. And as you can imagine, regulators are like, okay, this is something we are worried about because of competition. What is going to happen as far as those who rely on some of these smaller carriers? Are they going to be priced out because you just took away this form of competition that will be there to challenge all the other big carriers? And one thought is to possibly sell Boost Mobile to Amazon. And I looked at that and I'm like, can you imagine Amazon having their own carrier? We're talking about Amazon here. This company, have their hands in almost everything. And they're doing a pretty good job. I watch YouTube videos talking about how Amazon sell oil, and it's actually pretty good. Now, before I do my next oil change, I'm actually looking at them for getting my next quart of oil or 5 quarts of oil. They also sell cords, clothing. Amazon is almost in a lot of things, and they're doing a good job of it. I love, their service as far as when I order something. They have their own little, I don't know if it's their van or someone they contract out to. If you order something, you can literally follow the progress of your package to see exactly how far they are from you. It literally tell you, I'm 3 stops away, 2 stops away. I'm literally walking out the door, walking up to the person and grabbing my package, and because of just how they're doing with everything in general. And you look at what is sold on Amazon. They are selling smartphones that some of the cheaper smartphones, like your Motorola devices that are like your G7s and something like that. And you can actually buy an Amazon version of which will come with an Amazon Play Store. I believe will come up with a couple more Amazon apps that will be cheaper, versus buying something like that from a Best Buy. So you have the ability to buy this device. And now Amazon is potentially going to have a place where that device could thrive. And the way this is going to work, if they was to take someone like Boost Mobile, which is at MVNO. Now, for those who don't not understand what a MVNO is, or MVNO, I'm sorry, it's a mobile virtual network operator. And basically, a lot of your smaller carriers and non-contract carriers utilize that. One particular, Google Fi, they started their wireless service a couple of years ago under that same, and they feed off of Sprint and T-Mobile and provide services. Now, they actually been doing pretty decent for their service, considering that they don't advertise as much as they could, and they don't have all the bells and whistles as some of your other carriers. And yet, for what they are, they do pretty decent. I actually have Mobile Fi or Project Fi as my backup carrier, and I've been pleased with it, for what I use it for. And where I think this is going to be awesome as far as having another carrier like Amazon, especially with Boost Mobile, is that, if you look at Boost Mobile and you look at their customer base, it's going to fit in well like a glove for what Amazon is trying to do with their phones. And if you could take Amazon with all of their potential customers there, because you look at Amazon Prime members, they have a lot of people who subscribe to Amazon Prime. A lot of people use Amazon. So they have a big customer or pool of people to pull from already. And if you can find a way to take their carrier and their Prime membership, where, okay, if you're an Amazon Prime member, you want a smaller carrier, you're tired of spending $200-300 for smartphones, come over here to us and we'll cut you a deal where it'll be even much cheaper for you to have a smartphone for you and the family. Man, they got the opportunity to be potentially the biggest non-contract carrier out there, almost overnight. And this will change as far as the competition overall, because if Amazon can actually get their wireless carrier going, it will kind of change the landscape. Now, will it be able to compete with the big three of Verizon, AT&T, and potentially T-Mobile? Likely not, I don't think, because they're not going to have the same LTE and 5G capabilities of the big three. But for those who, like I said, are wanting a non-contract carrier like a Boost Mobile, wanting to save money, and really don't care so much about having all this LTE bandwidth because they don't use that much, they're going to gravitate to this. And again, because of the name Amazon, just throwing the name Amazon Wireless out there, it's going to draw the attention of potential customers. And here, if you're part of this wireless spectrum of carriers right there, you have to be worried right now because of what Amazon could potentially do in this market. And I think they will potentially disrupt this market, and hopefully in a good way. So I'm actually want to see how this play out, and want to know for you guys out there, if Amazon was to offer a wireless carrier service and it was priced just right, and they opened it up where you can bring any phone, kind of similar to what Google is doing with Google Fi, would you go to Amazon Wireless? Would you leave your Verizon, your AT&T, your T-Mobile, which will be getting 5G real soon, to go over to Amazon Wireless? For a lot of us tech enthusiasts like myself who waiting for 5G, we'll probably hold off on that. But there are a lot of people out there who can care less about a 5G. They're just looking at ways to save money and still be able to make phone calls and check the web. And I think for them, the answer is going to be yes. Not just yes, but when can they sign up? But let's go on to my next topic. So I read an article on Ars Technica. And it was talking about the Note 10 potentially coming out, and it may not have a headphone jack or hardware buttons. Now, manufactured 86 in the headphone jack, that is nothing new. In fact, we're in a world right now where you have more phones without headphone jacks than you have with it. We're actually surprised when we see a carrier come out with a phone with a headphone jack that is not a small, carrier or manufacturer. It is not some small, cheap phone or budget phone or whatever. Like, when you see the Pixel 3a, which is a mid-tier phone, said they coming out with a headphone jack, people was talking about it like it was something amazing to talk about. They got a headphone jack. Look, headphone jack. So, yeah, we are used to seeing phones like headphone jacks now. Because a lot of us now, we all have some set of wireless earbuds. Because wireless earbuds you can get on Amazon for as cheap as $15 now. And they work pretty decent. So even though we don't have a wireless headphones, people are able to get, or don't have a wired headphone with a headphone jack, people are able to go ahead and get around that. But hardware buttons, how are we going to get around that? Now, we could find ourselves in a situation where a phone without hardware buttons could be the next big thing. Similar to how the Note 2 changed the game, really the Note changed the game for phones where now all phones are large. We could see the Note 10 usher in a new era of smartphones where hardware buttons are a thing of the past. Now, there are going to be some challenges going that route. For one, people like me who want a skin or a case. Now, I prefer a case on my phone. How are manufacturers going to be able to adapt to people like that? Because there are a lot of people who put a case on their phone because they want to protect their device. Not everybody have the money to go out there and had to have their glass repaired or buy a new phone because they dropped it without a case on it. So especially when you got cases that are $10 or $15 on Amazon, it's like, Come on, really? At this point, it's not hard to put one on there, grab one, and protect your device. So for people like that, who that's their mindset, that's their thought process, they want to protect their phone against not only drops, but just the normal wear and tear of daily use, how are they going to be able to support that? Especially when you look at cases. When you introduce a new hardware idea out there where you have buttons that are virtual, that means you got to develop the case that can interact with that. And with these cases being, again, priced at 15, 20, 30 bucks, that means you're going to pass that on to the customers. A new case idea. Because, you're going to find a way to allow your case to interact with that. Now, this could open up some other ideas as far as smartphone builds. I've been a fan of the Droid Turbo, too, because of the simple fact it was designed as a phone that, was built to last. Now, the market had a different response to the Droid 2. Droid Turbo 2. People wanted more of these glass displays, similar to what you're seeing now. The Droid Turbo 2, it didn't get the kind of traction that I kind of hoped it would have got. A phone where you had a shatterproof case and that was designed to be able to last. Pretty much a phone that didn't need a case because it was built to handle drops and throwing in the pocket with keys and stuff like that. It was built that way. But you know what? Again, it wasn't the way of the future or the way we are at now. So for a lot of customers who want this glass display, they want a device that just feels awesome, just feels light. And now you're going to throw in this phone that, it's all frame or no hardware buttons. Now I can see some potential good to that. For one, not having buttons means, you don't have any crevices or anything to kind of, for dust or anything to kind of work its way into your device. As well as you kind of feel like your phone is more uniform, which can open up more ideology for where we can go with design languages of phones, potentially on it getting thinner and what can be done. But then you got to look at the other challenges that obviously come with that, and that's phantom touches that could result in volume changes that definitely going to be unwelcome when listening to media or having your phone power off inadvertently. This is going to be challenges that the manufacturers are going to have to figure out how to resolve, and utilizing software and machine learning to kind of help with that. Can it be done? Yeah. But we're going to have periods of frustrations while all the bugs are worked out. In a way, I hope the Note 10 do come the way people are saying, without hardware buttons, so we can see just kind of how it will work. And this is, again, me applauding Samsung for willing to take chances. And even though it may not work out, people may look at them like, man, what are you doing? Kind of similar to the backlash right now they're getting from the Samsung Fold. But you know what? I'm with that. I'm with them taking chances. Even with the Galaxy Fold right now, that, I'm not going to harp on it again because it's been talked about to the T here. But I'm glad they took a chance, and I continue to hope they do improve. When you decide to be first, you're the first one to have to deal with the problems. And to me, I think that's what makes Samsung kind of the top of their game, because they're willing to take on those challenges and answer that, and kind of be the pace or the compass for where we're going with smartphone technology. And I want to see kind of how this playing out. For me though, right now, I think, if the phone first come out and you're not able to use the case, I'm not going to gravitate to it because I know how I am with phones. But at the same time, I'm not going to tell someone else to avoid it because, I think we're going to see this thing grow to something potentially amazing, or it could be something where people look at it like those 3D phones of the past, where it's like, Yeah, I don't know what you were thinking when you came up with that. But you got to take your chances here and there. Now I want to talk about something real quick because I actually wrote an article about this on my site. And it was dealing with, you know, and let me go ahead and give you the backstory. So a couple weeks ago, I was thinking about buying a OnePlus 7 Pro after, all these people were talking about it. I wanted to go ahead and take my 60 and jump on the 7 Pro. That all display device, the 90 hertz refresh rate, I was excited to jump on board. When I went through OnePlus' site and tried to go through their trade-in program, they only offered me $240 for my phone. And I was like, really, $240 for a phone that I kept clean, there was nothing really wrong with it? And I'm like, okay, let me see what the market is offering for my phone. And I saw that they was offering at least around $400 for my device. Which makes me wonder, why in the world would I take being lowballed by a manufacturer for them to take my same phone and they go sell and make $400 for it? So I decided to take it and sell it on Swapper myself. And this is what I want to talk about. I want to talk about those looking to sell their phones on Swapper. And I kind of offer some advice that will help you out. So I actually sold my 16 on Swapper and was able to get it sold pretty quick. Now, for those who are not familiar with Swapper, Swapper is pretty much a peer site for selling devices. The founder of it, Ben Network, started back in 2010. He wanted a place to be able to, for those who have their smartphones, and it actually evolved beyond just Android to include iPhones, cameras, video game systems, tablets, iPads, so on. You utilize your device. It's like, all right, I want to sell it, get the max value for it I can. I took good care of it. It was a good place for it. And where he wanted to separate his site from something like eBay and Craigslist, it's just that. Where you can go on eBay and you hear a lot and you end up buying a phone that's blacklisted, which means you can't even use it. So he's not allowing those type of devices to be on his site. So you don't have to worry about buying a phone that you can't use, as he don't allow blacklisted phones. Or as he says, junk devices, where it's damaged, broken, or it's not even worth buying. So when you buy a phone or a device from them, you're getting something that is worth buying. And I've actually bought several devices from them or off of Swapper myself from people. And yeah, I've had nothing but great experience with it. I bought a couple of iPads and a couple of iPhones for the simple fact that I was buying them for my grandmother. She was kind of new to tech, so I felt it wouldn't be wise to get the newest of iPhones or newest of iPads when she's kind of still learning and figuring it out. So, something like a used iPad that it was taken good care of, that works just fine, was something that interests me. When I said, and that's what I ended up buying, and I was pleased with the purchase. And I ended up buying something else for, other family members who, again, they wanted something that, like an iPad, but they wanted to spend a lot of money for it. And I'm like, hey, let me see if I can grab one on Swapper, and they was pleased with it. So, when you buy something from there, you're not getting junk. You're pretty much going to get something that's worth buying. So I would want to look at finding or put my device on there to sell it. And this was the second device I sold. I actually sold I actually sold my Pixel 2 XL last year and took the money to buy my Pixel 3 XL. And I did that for a similar reason why I sold my OnePlus 6T a couple of days ago. And that's because, I was able to get more money if I sold it on Swapper versus going to the manufacturers and trading my device in. And for me, for those who are looking to get a new device and you got a phone that you took care of, don't trade it in. You can probably get more money if you sell it yourself. And that's kind of where I'm going as far as walking through what I end up doing. So the most important, or the first thing you're going to need to do when you go to their site, which is swapper.com, is to go ahead and create an account. Now it's free, it's easy. You should have that created in 5 to 10 minutes at most. The second thing, if you haven't done so already, is make sure you have a PayPal account. Now a lot of us already have a PayPal account, so this is nothing new. But if you haven't set up a PayPal account, you're going to need to do that. The reason why, because all transactions are handled through PayPal. And this is for the benefit of you, because PayPal offer a lot of protections where if something happened on both ends, whether you're the person selling or buying it, if the deal goes south, but PayPal is able to step in. It kind of helped with that. And I've actually had situations where PayPal ended up helping me where I had deals go south. So this is kind of be your way of making transactions. So make sure you set up a PayPal account. The next thing, you want to go ahead and get your device ready to sell. And this is pretty simple. You know, they walk you through everything. I mean, this is, even if you're new to it, they tell you step by step on how to do everything. You know, you literally just go and click on a sales tab, and then you decide which category your device fit in. And let's just say you like, man, I don't know where my device fit in. You know, it may not fit in the category. Well, if you select all categories, it'll list all devices out there, and then you can just click your phone, your tablet, or whatever you're selling. So click your phone, which this is particularly for those who are selling smartphones, just me walking you through it. So once you click on phone, you decide what carrier your phone is through, or if it's unlocked, the color, the storage, memory, the edition, if it's a special edition, and model. Now, if you don't know that, you can go into settings, about phone. A lot of times they'll tell you right there, it says everything that you need to know for what you need to put it in the information blocks. After you're done with that, you have the option to choose the price plus a $10 fee. Now, you don't pay the $10 fee, but the person buying it actually pays the $10 fee. So it don't cost you anything to sell your device. It actually costs the person buying it, I guess, $10 on top of what you're selling it for to buy it. So that, in a way, is good for you. So you got a place where you can sell your device and you don't have to worry about paying any fees. Now, once you get your device ready to sell, you're going to have to take some pictures. And this is where you can shine. And first thing first, before you start taking pictures, you know, presentation is everything. Grab yourself a microfiber cleaning cloth and clean your device real well. Clean up all the fingerprints, dirt, debris, make sure it's clean. And after you do that, do a good job inspecting it over with a light and just make sure you look at everything, because, you know, right when I went to go ahead and list my device, I actually started to list the thing as brand new or almost like new. And then when I was looking at it at the right angle, I just happened to see a really small nick. You know, it was something that was easy able to miss. In fact, I thought it was dust. And I kept wiping and wiping and wiping. I'm like, okay, this kind of is more than dust. Is it dirt? And then I looked at it closer, like, all right, it may be a little nick. So I actually changed it from light new to good and made sure to tell in my description that, hey, there is a small nick in my on the very back in the middle of the device. You know, something you can barely see. Now, I wanted to be upfront and honest with the person buying it, because I don't want someone buying it and see that and then that's the thing that they harp on. You know, that, again, they could have bought that and probably never saw that. But for me, you know, I'd rather someone be upfront with me. And for a lot of people, actually, I could barely see it. So I know a lot of people can care less about that little nick. But for someone who may want something like a brand new device, I want them to know upfront that, hey, look, this is something that is there. Now, once you clean it up and get it cleaned up like, you know, like new, take pictures from different angles, from the back with the screen off, screen on, to make sure they can see it works. From different angles, showing the back, the front, the top, the left, right around the USB port. Show everything so they can kind of get an idea of what they're buying. You know, the more transparent you are of what you're selling, the less chances of, you know, issues that will come up later with people saying, well, you know what, you sold me this. You didn't sell me what you said you sold me. Well, if you give a picture of everything, they can see up front, hey, okay, this is what I'm getting. And that's the most important thing. Make sure you get everything captured. Another thing too, you know, when you go to get it ready, for me, you know, when I buy a device, you know, I take the original packaging, I keep it in a cabinet somewhere. That way, when I'm ready to resell it, I just break out the box, wipe off the dust, you know, take the original cords, the original books, and all that stuff, and package it neat, so that when I'm giving you the device, it's almost like you're getting something that you bought from the store yourself, minus the shrink wrap. And that's something I recommend you do. You know, keep up with the books, keep up with the cords, and make sure you keep it clean. And, you know, in other words, present it the way that you want to present it to you. And in fact, the the ejection tool that comes with the device, I actually don't even rip it out. I actually use the one I have on my key ring. That way I can make sure that's good and ready to go for someone who needs it. So that's something I do as well. And then the extras. I throw in, a couple of cases. For one, I buy cases anyway when I buy a phone. It's nothing for me to buy 2 or 3 cases because I like to switch out cases every now and then. So I'm selling the phone. There's no need for me to have the case anymore. What's the point of having the case if the phone going away? So I go ahead and throw the cases in there. Same with screen protectors. I'll buy glass screen protectors. A lot of times I buy a glass screen protector, I'll buy maybe 2 packs just to have a backup, just in case I have one crack. And I gotta, be panicking to go buy another one off Amazon and have it rushed delivered because I'm worried about, something happened to my screen. So yeah, I have a backup set of glass screen protectors. Well, in this particular case, I never opened it. So yeah, it was nothing for me to throw it in there. And when someone is looking at, okay, I can get this phone from someone else with nothing, just a phone in it, and that's it. Or I can get from you a phone, a case, a glass screen protector. For them, that sets you apart from everyone else. Well, if I buy this from you, I'm getting some extra. And this is where this can help you out as far as getting stuff sold. Now, once you get all that stuff packaged up, ready to go, you choose your way of getting it to them, whether it be through UPS, FedEx, the post office. You're going to get a tracking number. You want to write that down because you're going to have to enter that tracking number and swap it. That way, not only you, but the person buying it can track where the device is at. Now, once they get it, they're being inspected, say that they're either satisfied or not, close it out, and leave a rating. Now, when I was getting ready to sell my device on Swapper, I actually asked an expert who has sold over 200 devices and been selling on Swapper for over 8 years. Just chatted with him and say, look, I'm looking to sell my device on there. Can you give me some tips to kind of help me out with that? And yeah, so, I'm going to share with you what they share with me. And so the first thing they said, if it's one of those devices that's really hot right now, it's like everybody's trying to sell it. A good example would be when a brand new iPhone come out or the brand new Pixel. A lot of people would rush and trying to sell their old Pixel because they're trying to get money so that they can put it to the new phone. So if you're pretty much trying to sell in the same crowd, go ahead and pay the extra $5 to make it a feature listing. That way it's up there in the front so that, it has more of a chance to be seen by someone. The second thing, which is something that I harped on, is being honest and transparent. Take good photos and make sure to respond to any questions as soon as possible from potential buyers. The other thing, to avoid fraud, make sure the person who clicked buy, so the buyer chose your device. And by the way, when someone buys your device, the moment they click buy, you'll see that the funds or whatever you charge them for will automatically be in your PayPal account. So you'll get your money pretty much up front. Now, what you want to do is make sure the person you're actually shipping that phone to, their address is tied to that PayPal account. Because if someone give you a separate address and you sell it there, they can say, well, I never got it. And next thing you know, you're caught up in a little battle. But if you ship it to the address that's on the PayPal account, you can say, look, I shipped it to your address on the PayPal account. If you didn't get it, that's between you, PayPal, and whoever. But I did what I was supposed to do. The other thing, you get 2 days the moment your device is sold to get it shipped. Now, the mistake I made was, I'm someone who like to, as soon as I see sold, I want to hurry up and get it to the person because I don't want to, be someone that's holding up the process. And this is where he pulled me aside and said, look, I understand what you're doing, but, just take the extra day to reach out to the person, make sure they're legit. You never know who's on the other end of that computer. And as much as Swapper do everything in their power to make sure to prevent fraud, to prevent all these issues, unfortunately, you can't weed out every individual. And this is where you, as the seller, is going to have to do a little extra steps. And they have a great staff that are willing to help in making sure the account is legit and they can look in and make sure whoever's buying is who they say are. But you need to do your steps. One example you said is to reach out to them and, ask them, say, look, thank you for purchasing my device. Let them know that I plan on sending your item through whatever carrier. For me, I use the UPS, and I'm going to require a signature upon delivery. That way I can make sure, you are who you are who's getting the device, and thanks. And yeah, that way you make sure you actually have some type of interaction with the person buying, make sure they're for real, they really want it, so you can save yourself any headaches. Once you do all that, you'll find out that for the most part, the transaction will be smooth. And for me, I actually was able to sell my device pretty quick, had no issues, and I highly recommend people check out Swapper if they want to sell their phones and get the most value out of it versus trying to, fight through Craigslist or go through eBay. And I'm definitely not telling anyone to trade in a device anymore. If you're not going to get, the market value for it, don't waste your time trading in. Don't allow the manufacturer to make money off of your device when you can be making money off of it, especially if you kept it in good shape. All right, let's move on to the last couple topics. And we'll talk about Google copying Apple, Apple copying Google. They all copy from each other. So Google been putting out dark mode for a lot of their apps. And the reason why, because, if your phone is in dark mode, it's using less pixels, which means it's better on battery life. Well, it looks like in iOS 13, we may be seeing Apple kick out dark mode for their customers, as I saw this on 9 to 5 Mac. Now, this is, again, I don't see anything bad about this. It's basically a good move on their end. A lot of people, especially me, I love dark mode. Any chance I can switch an app to dark mode, I prefer it. It's better on the eyes, and it allows the display or the things on it to kind of have a different pop to me than if it's on a white background. So I actually prefer it. And yeah, to see that kind of move to those Apple devices, I'm pretty sure you guys are going to like it. So, I'm looking forward to see when it actually becomes mainstream, but actually gets sent out as updates to see more iPhone people kind of mirroring the Android and having the dark displays or dark modes. Now, talking about copying each other, Apple copying Google and Google copying Apple, one of the things I for me, wish Google would have left to Apple was the gestures. Since playing around with my Pixel on Android Q and using the all gesture display or all gesture navigation, I do not like it at all. I don't know. It's like, I understand why they went to the all gesture display. With phone becoming more display, trying to get rid of the notches and all that stuff. You want to be able to take full advantage of it. So when you have buttons there, buttons kind of push the display up a little bit. But when you have gestures, you can literally have an all display device. Now, this is not anything new. In fact, those of us who are part of the rooting community would tell you, well, we had gestures long before it came to Android and iOS. It was available through ROMs and third-party rooting apps. Now, personally, I prefer the third-party rooting apps and ROMs version of gestures than we have now. But that's for a topic for another day. But for right now, the current gestures that we have with Google phones, I am not liking at all. I don't know if it's because it's buggy and it's just not working right, or if it's me. But when I'm trying to, let's say I'm listening to music, and I know a lot of us do that. We multitask. We'll be listening to music and going through different articles or whatever, or reading something on Twitter or whatever, and you want to go back to your music to switch something or change albums or something like that. And I find sometimes I'm trying to go back there, I end up closing out programs. And yeah, it's like I'm spending more time fighting with it versus doing what I wanted to do. And it got to the point it's frustrated to the point, all right, you know what? I'm ready to go back to the buttons. And now I'm not saying we should go back to all buttons. I'm actually okay with the current layout, as I call it, a pill setup that you currently have in your Pixel 3. I like that layout because, again, you kind of get the display, and you have what I feel a better way of utilizing gestures than what they were trying to do now. So for me, gestures not work for me on Android. Not the full gesture that they're trying to go to, but it could be me. And I'm curious for you guys out there who play with the new Android Q. How are you feeling about these all gestures that Google's trying to go to? Did you get a chance to play with it, and how are you liking it or not liking it? Or am I the only one who just have an issue? So let me know below in the comments your thoughts on it. And for my closeout question, could OnePlus be the next victim of this current trade war between the U.S. and China? So post your comments below on the topics I brought up. Thank you for joining me today on this edition of the neXup podcast. Have a great weekend. I'm out.